The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Tasty Minstrel Games, Game Toppers, and listeners like you.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes celebrate 3 years of podcasting in their Duke-iversary. Then they recap the past year and look to the future in a state of the Duchy. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
Oh, boy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 155, our third year Duke-iversary. Alex, happy Duke-iversary.
Happy Duke-iversary to you, sir.
Hooray!
Did you get me anything? Did you get me anything leather?
Boy, did I. No, I didn't get you anything leather. Come on. That's all right. Never mind. I'm gonna leave that alone because that was about to go to some weird places. So we are titling this third Duke-iversary the Ducal 3. Thanks to Todd Kauk. Of course, that's a play on the little deluquialism. Is that a right word? Deluquialism?
I think so. But you said something wrong there, Sean.
Did I say the Ducal we?
No. You said it. You said that properly. But it's Todd Kauk.
Excuse me. Yes. So Todd Kauk came up with the Ducal 3, which again is kind of a play on our Ducal we, meaning that I do all the work and Alex just is the voice of the podcast.
Boy, is that ever true.
So yeah, very, very clever name. Lots of other great names that were suggested. This is Todd's fourth naming, Alex.
Nice job, Todd.
Yeah, that's very impressive. In fact, we name all of our episode titles from our Board Game Geek Guild members over there. Every week we put up a Dukes on Deck, and we ask people to contribute to what we'll be talking about in the episode and also name the episode. And at the end of this episode, we will give you the rest of the top 6 episode names. So, Alex, milestone, 3 years, we made it, sort of.
Woof. This was a tricky one because normally we come into an anniversary on a bit of a hot thing, like a hot streak, a high note, something along those lines. We're coming off of a con, or we're heading into another con, or Gen Con's coming up, but it's in the middle of the hotness of summer is usually how this goes down. But a combination of factors have kind of made this one a little bit iffy, and it's probably worth acknowledging. One,
absolutely.
I left New Mexico. I just straight up left the state in a car. I drove to Ohio, had a lot of cool experiences along the way that I'll talk about here in a little bit. Drove to Cincinnati, Ohio, where my car is currently, and flew to Quebec City, Quebec, to meet with my special friend. I am at my special friend's apartment currently, recording this podcast on, as Sean saw, a very makeshift mic stand of several board games and a tissue box.
Yeah, we're basically regressing.
Yeah.
As the equipment in the Duchy studio gets better, now you're on a tissue box and there's a bra holding up one of the ends, and it's all very strange. Where is your special friend? Is she there in the apartment with you? Is she?
So a little bit of a complicated story. She had a bike stolen from her. She had a bit of a bike stolen from her a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And is now out buying a replacement bike at a store that, for some reason, is open until 9 p.m. So she's out doing that right now.
What do you mean, for some reason?
Well, it's open. I don't know. 9 p.m. seems late for a bike store for me. I don't know. It's a Thursday?
Hey, it's a whole nother country up there, Alex.
It's true. It is a whole different country separate from the country that you're in. So this is an international podcast currently.
Excellent. And then the other thing, we are a weekly podcast, at least for a little while longer. We had announced, I think it was last episode, that come September, we're going to be going bi-weekly. Well, not mostly. In large part because you don't know what the heck you're doing, Alex.
Yes.
Once you settle down, wherever you happen to settle down, and who knows where that's going to be. I don't know. You certainly don't know. But it's going to be kind of hard to maintain a weekly review schedule like we have for the last 3 years. And so we said, hey, you know what? Let's do this bi-weekly. Also, it's been tough. It's been really tough producing a weekly podcast. Before this last week, we had missed only one episode that was planned, right? Other than that, we had made every single episode for the last 3 years. And then you kind of got a preview of what it's going to be like bi-weekly, because we took last week off. There was some sad news in Raquel, my fiance's family. There was a death in the family, and so it just, number one, I needed to make sure I was there for her and her family. Number two, I could have made the time, but it didn't feel right to do so, and I was trying to be there for the family. So everyone got a preview of what it's going to be like once we go bi-weekly, and it was kind of weird. It felt weird, and I felt disconnected from the podcast, if that makes sense.
Well, and the guild gets quieter with those kinds of things. You don't have a thread up, and yeah, it's odd. And we have to brainstorm, and we still, I don't think, have figured out how to keep things fairly active during those off weeks. Obviously, some of this is going to be dropping one of my Patreon interview episodes. We've got one already in the can, ready to go. That'll happen during an off week at some point, I'm sure. And from there, we're still figuring it out. We just don't have the answers for that right now. Right.
And so, this was kind of interesting too, because we were planning on doing this last week. It was going to be the last time that we recorded here together in the Duchy studio. And so I wasn't planning for it to be like a send-off for you, but now it's definitely not, because you're long gone. You've been gone a week.
Yeah, no, and I'd actually timed my departure based on that anniversary episode.
Right. So it's definitely weird, and it would have been. I don't think it's a problem. Like, it would have been nice to kind of have one more customary recording for the 3-year. Now it's kind of like, all right, well, now we just need to adjust to the new normal, and that new normal is us recording remotely. So here's us adjusting.
Woo! Exciting stuff. Hey, let's get into some actually exciting stuff, because we'll recap a lot of this stuff in State of the Duchy anyway, and get into the future. We tend to do that as a traditional year thing. We have a huge contest that I am really, really excited about in association with this 3rd anniversary. We've teased it out a little bit, and in fact, one of those contests is going to be wrapping up.
You've done so reluctantly.
Yes, a little bit. This one, we have a whole bunch of games, a whole bunch more games than I was expecting for this contest, and we're going to spread them out over the course of the episode. So if you listen to the entire episode, you'll hear details for each of those contests, but there will be 4 in total, including one we'll tell you about right now, and that is North Star Games has agreed to provide us a copy. In fact, Sean, you already have it in the Duchy there, of Wits and Wagers Vegas, which is set to be on Kickstarter soon if it isn't already. It's the expansion for Wits and Wagers, and it is really cool. We've talked about this thing on the show, just how awesome this mat is and how it kind of elevates the play of this game.
Yeah, it's really cool. A big fan of Wits and Wagers, and this adds this nice, interesting betting mechanism where you're getting odds on different bets. A lot of fun, really cool. I really enjoyed it. I like Wits and Wagers.
So for that copy of Wits and Wagers Vegas, you're going to go on the Duke's social media. We have a Facebook account, we have a Twitter account, and you're going to retweet or share that link. And if you do that, you are entered into the contest. Simple as that.
Yeah, so go ahead and check that out. It will be up by the time this episode drops. So we're at Dukes of Dice on Twitter, and we're facebook.com/Dukes of Dice on Facebook. And while you're there, make sure you like on Facebook and you follow on Twitter. But now you mentioned there were 4 contests, Alex, but there are way more than 4 prizes. So this one only has the 1 prize associated with it, but we'll tell you about the other contests throughout the episode.
Oh, yes.
So before we kind of tell you about some of the games we've been playing lately, just want to give a quick reminder that we have a Patreon campaign going. If you go search for Dukes of Dice on Patreon, you can go there to help support the show, which we greatly appreciate. We have a lot of amazing Patreon patrons that help provide support for hosting the show and review games and all sorts of stuff. So really appreciate that. Please consider checking that out. But okay. Let's talk about some board games, Alex. I'm curious to hear what you've been playing, because you've had this crazy road trip, and you've had some cool experiences. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, a lot of gaming experiences, and I'll give kind of the broader picture of things. So on Friday, I drove up to Colorado and was hanging out with Mike Fitzgerald for a couple of days. Mike and his wife Elaine gracious enough to host me, and that was awesome. We got in a ton of games, most of which I'll be talking about in the recent plays here. From there, I drove straight on east out to St. Louis, Missouri, and met up with Jamie Stegmeyer. Caught lunch with him Ended up getting in a game of flip ships with him. He seemed to really enjoy that, as did Mike, by the way. And we'll talk a bit about that a little bit later on. And then from there, I drove to Cincinnati, Ohio, taught the family I was staying with, which were basically my dad's cousins. That family hosted me there. Taught them flip ships, and then flew on there from Quebec. So first game I want to talk about, though, is one that you, I think, have talked about on this show, Sean. I'd be surprised if you hadn't. And that is Bahrenpark. We got in a game of this at Board Game Republic in downtown Denver, Colorado. And Bahrenpark, for folks who don't know, is a patchwork-esque kind of game where, in this case, you're building a park for bears, different kinds of bears, with bathrooms and food streets and exhibits and all sorts of things like that. And it's set up like patchwork. You're picking up tiles in different ways. You place the tiles on your board to get more tiles, expand your board, and get points effectively. And for Mike, this is a patchwork and cottage garden killer. Now, I'm on board with half of that.
Yeah, them's fighting words.
That's what he said. Now, for me, I'm on board with this being a cottage garden killer.
Absolutely.
I think this is a cottage garden killer at that player count. I don't think it kills patchwork for me. There's something about the elegance of patchwork that still works, but this does capture some of that elegance as well in a higher player count game. I really enjoyed my play of Bahrenpark. It may be one I'll go and pick up. Sean, I think you've talked about this one before. You seem to like this one a good amount too, right?
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. I agree. It is a cottage garden killer. But no, not patchwork. Patchwork is amazing. Patchwork has been eligible for my top 10, which we'll talk about later. But I think it's really solid. Phil Walker Harding, I think, is a fantastic designer. It's a lot of fun. By the way, it's a zoo for bears. It's not a park for bears. It's not like the Berenstain Bears are going to visit Bahrenpark. You know what I mean? Just want to get that clear.
I don't know. The way I had my park built, it was probably going to be better for them to visit than humans to visit. There was one bathroom all the way in the back. You had to swim across a polar bear exhibit to get there. It wasn't the most human-friendly setup, I gotta admit.
Fair enough. But you liked it.
I did like it. I like it a good amount. And not a patchwork killer, but a cottage garden killer. And definitely worthy. Nice job, Phil Walker Harding, on that one for sure.
Very cool.
That's Bahrenpark.
Well, we, and wow, this is going to be more than ever the Ducal we, right? We got sent a copy of Crosstalk from Nauvoo Games, and I believe this was a Kickstarter that has recently started fulfilling to backers. Now, Crosstalk, and by the way, Nauvoo, you know him from Stockpile, which is just an amazing game. It took me a little bit to come around to Stockpile. I think it was one time we had like this 3-player game of it, and I was like, okay, I now love this game. Love Stockpile. But anyway, Crosstalk, this is a, guess a word, clue-giving game in a similar vein to, say, Codenames, right? But it's a little bit different. Now, it's similar in that there are 2 teams, except that both teams in each round are trying to guess the same word. So there are 2 clue givers. The clue givers look at the same word. They pull up a card, roll a die, look at the word. And what they need to do is then write down a secret word that each of their teams see. This secret word is supposed to provide context for the clues that they give. Then one of the clue givers is going to give a clue, but the other team then gets to make a guess. So if the other team guesses correctly, they win the point. 1 to 5 wins. If they guess incorrectly, then the other clue giver gives a clue, and now the other team again gets to make a guess. So this is really interesting, right? Because number one, you're not trying to give the best clue, because your team isn't getting the first chance to guess. You're trying to give a clue that is going to help your team, but not be so obvious to the other team. And you're trying to kind of key off that secret context word that you gave. This was excellent. Like, this was really good. We played a game like Word Slam at Dice Tower Con, which is kind of more of a speed game. This is more structured turns. Word Slam I wasn't crazy about. Crosstalk is excellent. Because there's a lot of interesting things that you're doing here to not be super obvious. So, like, let me give you an example, Alex. So, I was given the clue, and the word that we had to, or the name or whatever, was David Beckham, the footy ball player, right?
Soccer player, yeah.
I know. I'm not that, come on, give me a break. So, of course, I'm thinking, well, an obvious secret clue would be like soccer, something along those lines, right? But I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to assume that that's what they're going to do. And I'm going to give I'm going to go down this whole different rabbit trail so that I'm confusing the other team, and the other team will basically be giving clues that help my team. So the secret clue that I gave was husband. Okay, so this takes a while to get, right? I gave the first public clue. My first public clue was spice.
Oh,
okay?
Nice.
So right away,
Nice.
my team at the beginning is thinking, something related to husband. So like man or groom or whatever. And now I give them this spice clue, and it completely throws my team off. But then the other team, they have no idea, right? They're completely, because now the public clue I gave doesn't match their secret clue. And they're just completely confused. And then Curtis, who was giving the clues for their team, then kind of gave a clue that made more sense, which completely keyed in my team. And their first guess, David Beckham, boom, they got it. Because
Nice.
David Beckham's married to Posh Spice. And really, I don't know the name of any other husband to any other Spice Girl. So,
Nope.
yeah, this was really good. There were, let's see, I think Cameron said he liked it better than Codenames. I don't think I'd go that far, but I really liked it. I really liked that you had to, like I said, you had to give okay-ish clues, or you had to give clues that were just subtle enough that you would get information across without really keying in the other team. It was really good. And so I highly recommend Crosstalk, especially if you're a Codenames fan. And I think you would like this too, because there is some of the... you're not doing trash talk like you can in Codenames, but there's a lot of speculating on what like the other team's secret word is and things like that. It was really good. I really recommend Crosstalk from Navu Games.
Very nice. I got in a game called Valetta. Mike Fitzgerald showed me this one. This is a game that is just being put out by Z-Man Games. It's designed by Stefan Dora, whose name sounded familiar, but I didn't quite clue on, and I had to look things up. Stefan Dora, the designer of things like Medina and For Sale. Those are two of the more famous ones he's done.
Right.
In Valetta, what you're doing is it's a hand management game a la Rococo. And there's a grid of cards that you are trying to build through gold and different resources. Each turn, you're going to play 3 cards from your hand in order. Those cards could be building a building out on the board. They could be gathering resources. They could be taking money from other players. They could be moving this guy, Jean something de Valetta, to move along a track, which will get you a good and change where different buildings that give you bonuses are. After you build a building, you'll place a disc on it and grab the card associated with that building. So that card will be something like gain a wood for every wood icon you have on your buildings, or gain a gold from every player who has more gold from you, something along those lines. Those different abilities key off of each other, and you're building your hand as you go. This was a super elegant, really well done game, and Sean, I think you're going to be absolutely in love with this one and how this one handles deck building, hand management. It checks off a lot of boxes. It's one that I hadn't heard of much of before, but it's super good. Valetta. I would give that one a check. Sean, had you heard of this one before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's actually been on my radar, and I've been meaning to play it. Empire Board Game Library here in the Duke City has a copy, a library copy, and I've been meaning to play it, and it looks really good. I've heard good things about it, so glad to hear that you liked it. I'm definitely going to try and get it in the next couple weeks.
Yep, get that one to the table. That's Valetta. Strong recommendation for that one. Nice job, Stefan Dora.
Very cool. So I got in a play of Caverna, wait for it, Cave versus Cave. This is the 2-player game, similar to what Uwe Rosenberg does. He takes, one of his big box games and he makes a smaller, more streamlined 2-player version of it. So there was Agricola, then there was Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. There was Le Havre, and then there was Le Havre Inland Port. So now there's Caverna, Cave versus Cave. And
how is that physically possible? A cave versus a cave? Like, is it like slowly over the course of time, like a cave, like moving towards another one before it swallows it up? How's that go?
No, I think it's synecdoche. I think it's the literary device known as synecdoche, where I believe it's a part represents the whole or something. It's like when you say the White House said. Well, the White House didn't say, it was people in the administration said. So it's the cave and all of the energy going into building up that cave versus the other cave. Synecdoche.
I see.
Courtesy the Dukes of Dice. There's your literary lesson for the day.
And now you know because knowing is how you know stuff. So how's this awesome 2-player game that you enjoyed?
Who said it was
Maybe.
awesome? I didn't say it was awesome.
That's what I was... Okay. Is it awesome?
Yeah, it's awesome. No, I really like
Okay.
it. So I like Agricola All Creatures Big and Small. I think it needs the expansion to be really good. I haven't played Le Havre Inland Port. Now, this condenses the whole Caverna experience. It gets rid of a bunch of stuff. So there's no animal husbandry that you have from the main game. Instead, what you're doing is it's sort of worker placement. It's worker placement in effect, but the actual mechanism is slightly different. And what you're doing is you're going to take these different actions that let you get different resources. You can clear rubble from your cave. Once you do that, you're able to build these rooms that give you different abilities. You also have to worry about building certain walls because in order to build some of these rooms, there are certain wall configurations that you need. All right, so now this worker placement I talked about, you're literally not taking workers and placing them on an action spot. Instead, at the start of the game, you have like 4 or 5 action tiles that are available to everyone, and you simply take one and slide it back towards you to show that you've used it that round. Someone else can't use it that round. So it has the exact same effect as if you were placing a worker on it, but they just kind of avoid that. And as the game progresses, more action tiles become available, and as the game progresses, you're able to take more actions. Basically, you get more workers. This is really good. I like this right out of the box. I like it more than Agricola All Creatures Big and Small. Like I said, I think you need the expansion for that. But this Cave vs. Cave, I really enjoyed. I played it twice so far, once with Cameron and once with Raquel. And I beat Cameron and I lost to Raquel. Raquel, who, mind you, never wins any games, according to her. So... I really enjoyed this, and I would definitely recommend checking this out. I can see, though, where I might get tired of it a good dozen plays from now. I mean, I think I'll want an expansion eventually, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to getting some more plays of it in.
So that's Caverna Cave vs. Cave, and that is what we played. Let's head on over to the news desk. First up in news, we've already heard a little taste of the hotness for Gen Con because this is, after all, Gen Con week, Sean.
This is our Gen Con.
Is.
This is our Gen Con preview episode.
Which is, we're not going to be doing much Gen Con previewing, so sorry to disappoint, I guess.
Yeah.
Not so timely as always. We'll probably be doing a better Gen Con recap because, hey, this is some news. We'll both be at Gen Con. Hooray!
Sort of.
Sort of?
Yeah.
Did that change, Sean? Uh-oh.
Well, I was supposed to fly out Wednesday night, and then yesterday, so we're recording this on Thursday, Wednesday, I got notice of an emergency hearing in a case on Thursday morning. So the plan is for me to fly out Thursday night. So I'm now going to get in late Thursday night to Gen Con, which is really a bummer. There's absolutely no way I can move this hearing. It is what it is. So, but I'll still be there. Just a little late, and I probably won't get a copy of Legend of the Five Rings from Fantasy Flight Games. Bummer.
I might be able to pick that one up for you because I should have an exhibitor badge. Hooray!
But hey, speaking of Fantasy Flight Games, Alex.
Oh, well, no, I was going to say how I was going to be at Gen Con.
Oh,
You're
sure.
so rude, Sean.
Okay, sorry.
So this is in the category of full disclosure, I guess, because we tend to have that whenever a review copy of a game comes up. But this may come up in just the context of any time we talk about this publisher's games. I'm going to be working at Renegade Games booth, not for the whole con, but just for a chunk of time. Typically from 12 to 3 most days is when they have me scheduled. So swing on by, I'll demo you something. And thanks to the folks at Renegade for getting me a badge last second, because otherwise I don't think there was any way I was getting into Gen Con, because they are sold out.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but Renegade Game Studio is a board game publisher, correct?
They are indeed.
And speaking of board game publishers, Fantasy Flight Games is also a board game publisher, right? And speaking of Fantasy Flight Games, look, I got to preserve my segues here. So
nice transition. I like it.
So this is a little something that Fantasy Flight tends to do right before Gen Con is they release some big news that they're kind of teasing for Gen Con. So what's going on from Fantasy Flight, Alex?
Fantasy Flight is going down the video game route with this one. They are putting out a Fallout game. It's going to be an adventure board game based on that video game series. And Sean, I am familiar with the Fallout series. I have never actually played the Fallout series. Have you played the Fallout series?
I have not. I own the previous Fallout, which I have not played. I am always planning to play it. Now, this is from the Bethesda studio that makes the video game. I did actually just start playing Skyrim, which is also from Bethesda, the other night, and there's some similarities between the game, and they're kind of this open world role-playing sandboxy thing. My brother got me Skyrim for my birthday, and I started playing it the other night, which has been bad news because it's really awesome, and I stayed up really late one night when I shouldn't have. But Fallout is something that I know is incredibly popular. It's something that has been on my radar that I've wanted to play, but just haven't. But I know this is going to be big news and exciting for a lot of diehard Fallout fans out there.
Well, we've seen video games make that board game transition. XCOM being the first one that came to my mind of a hot video game that ended up making its way to the tabletop scene, and I think reasonably successful. Yeah, Bloodborne, sure.
Yeah,
and my guess is more will come. And of course, what's that one? It's off of the really popular one. Mechs vs. Minions, which is based off of a video game as well.
Sort of. And then, of course,
it's in the world.
And of course, there's Monopoly Gamer Edition, which is also based off Super Mario and Mario Kart or whatever, or Mario Party. I'm not sure.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
You're our Nintendo expert here, Alex.
Well, I have to actually look up what you're talking about, and then I'll maybe get back to you.
Okay.
So anyway, there's some Gen Con hotness out there, and if you want to hear more about it, you should listen to us next week or listen to another show that's previewing it a little better, because that's about it for Gen Con news. Hooray, us! Let's talk about Kickstarter, and Sean, I think we have a Duchy first here, possibly.
Oh.
Quite possibly,
okay.
With this Kickstarter. This is a successful Kickstarter pander.
Yeah, Alex, it sure is. A listener, Stuart Platt, reached out to us on Twitter and said, hey, I'm going to shamelessly pander to you and let you know that you should mention this Kickstarter. So, hey, we're mentioning this Kickstarter. It's called Off the Rails, and it is currently on Kickstarter. It ends September 2nd, 2017. It has almost reached its funding goal. It's got about a $17,000 funding goal. It's actually in British pounds, but it's at $13,000 of its $17,000 goal. This looks pretty interesting. It is a tile laying game, and you are trying to lay tracks for these minecarts. And you're basically trying to race your minecarts to get different types of gems from this mine. But you have to be careful because your different minecarts are going to be set at certain speeds, and that's how many tiles they move. And you can run into other minecarts, you can run into obstacles and all sorts of things. So you're either laying track or you're adjusting the speed of your of your minecarts. And so you're trying to go fast enough so that you can get to the gems before others, but not so fast that you're causing these terrible accidents. It looks pretty fun, I think. Did you take a look at this, Alex?
Yeah, it does look pretty fun, and he actually described in the email, he thinks it's a very Alexy game. So if you're in the Alex 15%, this might be the game for you. He thinks it might be a family 5 for Sean, and we'll see. It's there was some pitching there and some clear having listened to the show, which definitely appreciated. The one thing that I thought was interesting that he mentioned in his description to us was it has something of a Survivor Pompeii mechanic, where at a certain point the world starts collapsing, the board starts shrinking, space gets tighter, whatever the case may be. Call it a Suro mechanic. I don't know what exactly you would call that, but I tend to like that mechanic in games where a world that you've either built up or is out there starts getting shrinking until you're forced into closer and closer combat, and eventually one person's going to be left standing. I do like that. And components of this look like they're going to be pretty good. Decent enough artwork, kind of very cartoony style. It's goblins after all. You're goblin versus goblin.
Right, and so you get these 3D printed minecarts, which are big enough to actually hold the dice in them. It looks really solid. So if you want to get the main game, it's £30, which works out to about $39 US. If you're going to ship here to the US, it's an extra about $5. So it's about $45, give or take, depending on the conversion rate. Free shipping in the UK, which is nice. I think that's a pretty solid price point for this game.
Yeah, I would say so. And so, yeah, give this one a look. They mentioned this is kind of a proper Kickstarter, quote unquote, in the sense that this will not get made if it doesn't meet its funding goal, unlike a lot of other Kickstarters, which they'll either set an absurdly low funding goal or they're going to get made anyway. They're just trying to get pre-orders. This seems to be a case where they actually, folks, if they don't pledge, they're not going to be able to make this. I think they're on track to make this funding goal, though. I don't think that's a huge issue. So, in any case, if you're interested, give this one a look. It's Off the Rails on Kickstarter now.
So I guess that's going to do it for a news segment. We should probably move on. Alex?
What? I'm the one in Canada, not you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but you're in Quebec, right? So they don't say A in Quebec, do they?
Not really. It's more French, and I feel embarrassed because my French isn't good enough. But c'est la vie. Anyway, we have another part of the contest to announce, I think, before we get out of the news segment, Sean. This is going to be an email contest. And Sean, where should they send this email that we're about to tell them to send if they want to enter?
Go and send it to Sean at dukesofdice.com. That's Sean, SEAN, at dukesofdice.com.
If you want a nice response back, send an email to Alex at dukesofdice.com, but that won't get you a contest entry. That'll just get me, I'll write you something nice back.
Do you even know how to access your Alex at dukesofdice.com account?
I do, by the way. That's how I got that Kickstarter email, was from my Alex at Dukes of Dice account.
Okay.
I finally got on that. So it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
Okay.
Send me email so I can know if it's working or not.
Fair enough. So send me an email, Sean at dukesofdice.com, and the subject line has to read, Cheetos aren't Cheerios. One more time, Alex. Cheetos aren't Cheerios. And I'll tell you what, if you can explain that reference in the body of the email, it'll be worth an extra entry. What do you think? Does that sound fair?
I like that a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
We have a lovely package of prizes for this contest from 3 different companies. Restoration Games is providing a copy of Downforce. TMG is providing a copy of Amun-Re. And Stronghold has a package of games, a trifecta of games that you could possibly win. Fuji Flush, Get the Cheese, and 5 Cucumbers. That'll come as a whole package. And I think the way we're going to do this is we're going to pick 3 winners in order. The first winner is going to get the first pick. Second winner is going to get the second pick. Third winner will get whatever hasn't been picked so far. So, send that email to Sean at Dukes of Dice with, again, the subject line, Cheetos aren't Cheerios.
So make sure you get those entries to us prior to August 24th by midnight, mountain time, I guess, since I'm in mountain time, somewhere in there. But basically, by the time I wake up, I should hopefully have all the entries for that. All right? That sounds like a plan.
That is our contest. That is also a look at the news.
If you're headed to Gen Con 2017, be sure to check out the Tasty Minstrel Games booth number 637. You can find it nearby the Art Show and Authors Avenue. And while you're there, you can check out a bunch of their amazing games like Guilds of London, Colosseum, Amun-Re, Jiraku, Oracle of Delphi, Orleans, Yokohama, and a bunch more. Let them know that the Dukes of Dice sent you. Again, that's booth 637. Tasty Minstrel Games at Gen Con 2017. And hey, if you can't make it to Gen Con, check them out at playtmg.com.
Well, it has been a Duchy tradition from the very beginning. We started this show telling you our top 10 of all time, and things have changed, maybe more for me than for Sean, and now we are ready to reveal where we stand today. It's our 4th top 10 list.
All right, so looking back, like you said, Alex, this has been our tradition. I thought before we kind of go into our top 10 of all time, we take a look back at last year's top 10 list. So we did this in episode 1. We did this on all the 1-year anniversary episodes. But we're just going to look at last year. So what were your top 10 games last year?
So my top 10 games in order were number 10, Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Number 9, Millennium Blades. Number 8, Mysterium. Number 7, Power Grid. Number 6, Patchwork. Number 5, Glass Road. Number 4, Sheriff of Nottingham. Number 3, Scythe. Number 2, Motainai. And number 1, Baseball Highlights 2045, first mention.
Okay, so I should point out, we have not seen each other's updated lists at all. We keep those hidden. Alex, you know the 39 games I'm going to be choosing from. So real quick, I'm going to make some predictions for you.
Okay.
So number 1, I think that Pathfinder is off. I think that Power Grid is off. And I think Glass Road is either going to barely hang on or is off. Those are my predictions.
Okay. And anything you think is on it that's not on it right now?
I think that's kind of flip ships. And in fact I think I'm gonna call flip ships right now is number 4 for you. It's your number 4 game of all time. Flip ships. That's my guess.
Okay. I like all those predictions. That's not bad. So Sean, what was your top 10 list from a year ago?
Okay, number 10, Roll for the Galaxy. Number 9, Scythe. Number 8, Arcadia Quest. Number 7, Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Number 6, The Resistance Avalon. Number 5, Motainai. Number 4, Castles of Burgundy. Number 3, Zolkin. Number 2, Terra Mystica. And number 1, Kemet. So what do you think? Okay, it was my 5. Okay. It was in the 39. Yep. Even though technically it's still a 5, technically.
Okay, so that's a series of predictions. What I'll say is I think your predictions for my list are probably going to be more accurate than my predictions for your list. Okay. But that's based on knowing how your guesses stack up.
And I should say, the big prediction, and I think the obvious prediction, for you, Baseball Highlights 2045 stays number 1. I think that's going to be pretty obvious. So we shall see.
Number 10.
All right. Well, I guess we're not going to wait around, Alex. My number 10 is Terraforming Mars.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, 1 for 1.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. So, and I should point out, by the way, that there was a contest that we're doing for this. I had people kind of guess which games are going to be on my top 10, and I gave everyone a list of 39. So it's definitely going to be of those 39 games. And my method of doing this was kind of looking at a game compared to another game and saying, okay, is this above it or below it? Based on how eager am I to get this to the table? How likely am I to want to play this as the years go on? Or maybe if I had to make a choice to get rid of one of these 2 games, which would it be? And as I kept comparing Terraforming Mars, I'm just like, man, I love this game. It is probably my most played game of its weight or similar weight over the last year and change. So it only gets number 10, which is still pretty solid. I mean, my list of 39 games, man, those are fantastic games. And this is certainly a strong number 10. This is from Stronghold Games, designed by Jacob Frixelius. And you are terraforming Mars. You are improving the oxygen content. You're adding oceans to the planet. You're increasing the temperature. There's this great tableau building. There's some engine building. I initially gave this a 5, and what held it back, I think, were the different component issues that we had with the game. But ultimately, this game is awesome, and I can see myself continuing to play this. Anytime someone suggests Terraforming Mars, I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it. So that's my number 10, Terraforming Mars.
Question for you. Would this possibly get higher if it had a better production quality? If the production quality from Stronghold, was better on this one, would it have gone a little bit higher?
I don't think so. I think I've basically chosen to ignore those production issues and focus on the gameplay. I don't think this would necessarily have been higher, but time will tell. Time will tell.
Very cool. All right, my number 10, I literally just changed 5 seconds ago as I was staring at this list. And for full disclosure on my list in general, I did not have this thing typed out until about an hour before we started recording.
Okay.
So it wasn't as locked in as Sean. Sean had come up with his, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and it had time for it to settle a bit. Mine is still fairly fresh, and it's kind of where I'm feeling very much in this moment. My number 10 was going to be Mysterium. But it is not Mysterium. I swapped Mysterium out and replaced it with Pandemic Legacy Season 1. The game I am most disappointed we haven't gotten to the table and haven't finished. And I think it's that, so for folks who don't know, we started a Pandemic Legacy campaign and got about 3/4 of the way through it before, for various reasons, stopping and not playing again. Not because of the game. I think none of those reasons had anything to do with the game itself.
Absolutely not.
And despite the Wham boys being regulars at Duchy Wednesday game nights, I think the fact that we are always getting something new to review or always need to review something new has us in a tough place to play one of these campaign-style games as often as I'd like to. That being said, some of my strongest, most oh-my-goodness gaming memories came from Pandemic Legacy Season 1. This game was unreal in the twists and turns it provided, including the one it hit us with right when we stopped playing. One of the coolest twists I've ever seen in a game period, in my mind. Because it has those strong memories and because I'm so insistent on wanting to get it back to the table, I got to have it somewhere on this list. And it just sits in there at number 10, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. We got to finish this, Sean, even though I've now made it a lot harder by, moving out of the state.
Well, we could play on Skype. I mean, we could make that happen.
It's not the same, man. It's not the same.
Well,
any case,
maybe when you come back in town, maybe we'll plan, a whole session and get it done. So I'll just point out that both Terraforming Mars and Pandemic Legacy Season 1, this is their first time debuting on our top 10 lists. So.
Yes, indeed. Even though Pandemic Legacy could have been on my list last year and was an honorable mention last year.
Number 9.
My number 9, Sean, I get the great satisfaction in saying on one prediction on my list, you, sir, were incorrect. And that was with Power Grid. Power Grid is my number 9 game. Just hangs on the list, down a couple of slots. It's one that's had a lot of staying power, I found, Sean. This is a game, for folks who don't know, where you are building out a map, you're building out a power grid, you're auctioning off power plants each round, and then paying to fill them. This is a game where the mechanics have kept this one coming to the table time and time again. I've played this one a couple of times in the past year. I've loved the plays I've gotten of it. It tends to be tense, economically tight, very mathy, and you would think this would not be exactly in my wheelhouse for the type of games I tend to really love, and it's certainly compared to a lot of the other games on this list, it's definitely a little bit different. It fits a couple of the themes I tend to like. It's not totally perfectly there, but I got to tell you, Sean, every time I get this one to the table, I absolutely love it. And for that reason, because of its staying power, it holds a pretty fond place in my mind, fond enough to end up on this list at number 9.
So I should point out that Power Grid was your number 7 last year, and then first appeared the year before as your number 6. So falling slightly. A little downward trajectory there, Alex.
Sure, but it's hanging on. I think I'm very comfortable with it still being on my list.
Well, speaking of downward trajectories, my number 9 is, you ready for this? This is going to be the first episode, Alex. Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh!
So in episode 1, when we first did this, Tzolk'in was my number 1 game of all time. The following year, it was my number 2 game. And then last year, it was my number 3 game. So now it's fallen to number 9. I still love it. I still will pretty much never turn down a play of it. But for various reasons, it just falls down on it. Now, this is kind of your classic medium weight, really thinky Euro. This has the amazing rotating gears, and time is a resource in the sense that it's a worker placement game. The longer you leave workers out on the board, the better and better their actions get. I love the puzzle of this. I love the resource management of it. It is still, it's still going to always hold a special place in my heart. I have a shadow box of this game. I think it's just gorgeous. I have painted gears on my actual play copy, but there's some better games that are going to be up higher on my list. But Tzolk'in still has like I said, a very special place in my heart. And I feel like it's a bit of an upset, Alex.
That very first episode, by the way, I listened back to it just before going out on this trip, just as sort of a reminder of where we've been. And it's more listenable, too, than I thought it was going to be, by the way. I was actually pleased with that. The game court. I listened back to the game court piece of this, and I feel past Alex was vindicated a little bit by this game's place on the list right now.
No.
Just saying, just taking a little bit of glory. I'm just gonna take a little victory lap around this room. Hang on one second. Hang on.
I don't think that. Wow, you're literally doing it. We're not like doing some theater where you literally did it. Okay, great. No, you're totally incorrect here. It's still maintained a spot on my list. I do not expect it to leave the list next year. I don't. I really don't. I love this game so much. If they did an app of this, oh man. Oh, I'd play it all the time.
I think the romance is on the rocks, Sean.
Okay. Quiet you. That's my number 9, Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar.
Number 8.
All right, my number 8. This is a newcomer to the list. It is a GMT game. Any guesses, Alex?
Combat Commander?
Combat Commander Europe, because that's the only one I've played. Although, I technically played Combat Commander Mediterranean. But anyway, Combat Commander in a general sense, but I guess Europe technically. This is a game that I picked up in the Ding and Dent section of Cool Stuff Inc. last year at Dice Tower Con, and it took me until this last Dice Tower Con to finally play it. And I was able to play a game with Rory was there, my buddy Ellie was there, and there was a Combat Commander veteran that basically kind of ran us through a game. I had read the rules before, but I just never got to the table. And since then, Rory and I have been meeting Sunday mornings at Empire Board Game Library. He opens it up early, and we've been going through the Combat Commander scenarios in the Europe map. I've picked up a bunch of new scenarios. We are just super into this game, and it is fantastic. So this is a tactical war game. It's hex encounters, right? So little chits and a bunch of hexes. It is kind of a squad level game, and it's very random. A lot of these tactical war games are pretty random. Instead of dice, you flip over cards from your deck, and each card has a dice roll on it. And they're correctly, a 2d6 roll, they're correctly distributed. And so that's the cool thing. I love multi-use cards, and Combat Commander has cards that you can use as actions, cards you can use as modifiers. They may also have events on them. Whole bunch of things, and it just uses these cards in very clever ways. The way that you have to mitigate the odds of these dice rolls is really important. And I was kind of talking to Matthew about it today because I shared with him my list. We have a group chat, and I didn't tell you what was on it, but he's like, "Really? Already you're putting Combat Commander on?" I said, "Absolutely," because I'm thinking about this game all the time. Rory and I are playing this game all the time, and it scratches that itch for tactical war games that I don't get anymore. I mean, I used to play a ton of tactical miniatures games, and this scratches that same itch without the hobby side of it, having to build them and paint them and build terrain and all of that. It is very possible that this time next year, there is some other tactical combat game that's on my list, because I've played something different that I enjoy more. Like I have the GMT Panzer, which is all about, tank battles. But right now I'm in love with this game. I'm enjoying this. I'm looking forward to every Sunday when Rory and I can play this. And I will say that this kind of replaces Battle Lore Second Edition, which had been on and off the list in the past. So this is the first appearance of my number 8, Combat Commander Europe.
Wonderful, wonderful. My number 8 is also a newcomer to the list, Sean, and it's a newcomer as of this year, a new game that's come out, and actually a lot of people may not have even played this one. It is a Red Raven game. It is Near and Far. Near and Far on this list at number 8. And this game, as we talked about during our review of this not too long ago, scratches every itch for me. It scratches the storytelling itch. It scratches the relatively simple mechanics kind of itch. Makes you feel clever in the right ways, but doesn't overstay its welcome. The fact that this game has a campaign mode in it, the fact that this game has a way of extending its longevity, that's going to keep it coming to the table more and more often. I mean, the storytelling alone in Above and Below brought it to a 5. The fact that you have an actual amazing game associated with it, a really, really solid game backing it, that amazing story that you had in Above and Below, brings it Near and Far into a whole new level for me, and that whole new level is number 8 on my list. Didn't feel uncomfortable about putting this one there. Sometimes I do about putting a game that we've just talked about this year. Not so much in this case. A solid number 8 for Near and Far.
You'd think with all of these itches we're describing, we should probably invest in some ointment or something.
Board game ointment. Dr. Ramirez's board game ointment. I like it.
Let's do it.
Number 7.
My number 7, also a newcomer to this list, but not a newcomer as far as a game we've played. A game that has grown in my mind over the years, and in fact, I didn't give this one a 6 initially. This is an Alexander Pfister design. Sean, do you know which game I'm talking about?
Broom Service.
It's not Broom Service.
Isle of Skye.
It is Isle of Skye.
Yeah,
Isle of Skye from Alexander Pfister. A lot of people say this one uses an auction mechanic for how it deals with things. And by the way, I should say, I always feel bad about this. It also co-designed by Andreas Pelikan. We always leave that poor guy off. Andreas Pelikan and Alexander Pfister co-design. It has not an auction mechanic so much as a price-setting mechanic. You're going to have tiles in front of you each round. One of them gets chopped, removed from the game. The other ones you set prices on, and the other players can pay a certain price for that. You'll get that money as well to spend in future rounds. If no one buys your tiles, you pay that price to the bank and get to build them in front of you. This game is not only incredibly elegant, doesn't overstay its welcome, but also uses different goals as a way to keep the game feeling fresh. There are so many different goals to mix and match that you have to get at certain times. even if the goals were the same, I think the game would feel still pretty good if they were the right goals. But the fact that this one has as much variability as it does, as much replayability as it does, feels smooth, plays smooth, and has a lot of interesting decisions in it. You add all of that together, it's an awesome package, and I think this was a true great game, and definitely a deserving Kennerspiel winner. Isle of Skye, my number 7.
All right, my number 7, another newcomer to the list, a game that I reviewed earlier this year, Alex, during your hiatus with our buddy Travis Hill from Low Player Count. It is The Colonists from Mayfair Games, designed by first-time designer Tim Puls. Tim Puls? I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Boy, this game is epic, Alex. This game is an epic Euro game that can take 8 to 10 hours if you decide to play the whole dang game. I think that you would love playing the first 2 ages. It would be about 2.5, 3 hours, still pretty long, but I think you would enjoy it. And then you would be done. You're like, cool, that's great. I'm totally done with this game. It's fine. This is a spatial action selection game. You have this ever-growing area in the center where you're adding new hexes with new action spaces that get more powerful as the eras go on. You are building these different buildings, which can give you certain income, which can give you new abilities. You have different types of workers that you get as the ages go on. There's this whole logistical aspect of storing your goods. It's not just enough to collect certain goods. You have to have enough storage for them. And you can't just, there are different types of storage. There's just so much going on with this game. You have the embassies, which add all these different variability options. This game is crazy. I think what I said prior to the review was I probably spent about 40 to 45 hours playing this game over several times, playing just the first 2 ages, or playing the whole thing, or playing it solo, playing it 2 players, playing it 4 players. This game is fantastic. I'm going to struggle getting this out in the right situation. I can see myself playing this solo quite a bit, though, especially now that I have a gaming table that has covers for it, so I can play age 1, put it away one night, come back for age 2 the next night, whatever. Man, this game is awesome. You will like it well enough if you were to just play the first 2 ages. But like I said, then you're just like, nope, I'm done. No, thank you, age 3 and 4. I'm solid. So,
man, yeah. So half a game I'd like, the other half.
But here's the thing. Even that experience in and of itself, like age 1, you would consider a light medium Euro, right? Age 1 and 2 would be a medium Euro. And then add 3 and 4, and it's definitely medium heavy, maybe bordering on heavy. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool how that works. And there are ways that you could just be like, I'm going to skip age 1, 2, and 3 and just dive into age 4. So definitely worth checking out. It's a commitment. It is a beast to sort and organize. But man, I love The Colonists. So that is my number 7.
Number 6.
All right, my number 6 is another newcomer to the list, but not a new game. This is Le Havre from Uwe Rosenberg. I think it's another Mayfair game, Lookout Spiel, possibly. And I've said this before, this is my favorite Uwe Rosenberg game. It's fairly simple in terms of rules complexity, in that on your turn, you are either taking one group of resources that have been accumulating over the rounds, or you're taking a single building action. You move your one worker onto this building to activate it. And what you're doing is you are taking various goods, you're trying to convert them into other goods. You need food because you need to feed your people every single round. And you need to take these goods. Eventually, you're trying to possibly ship them to get money for them, because ultimately money is how you are winning the game. And there's just so much just turning one resource into another and converting it into another. You have to worry about energy because you need to run these different buildings, these different systems. So, like for example, if I want to turn my iron into steel, I need to pay a bunch of energy, either in the form of wood, which is really inefficient, or I can have charcoal, which is a little bit more efficient, or coke, which is even more efficient. And the tension of having to feed your people every single round is just incredible. It is so tense. And that requirement, that feeding requirement, gets harder and harder every single round. And there's a ton of variability here because you have certain buildings you'll see every game, but then you have some special buildings. There's a huge deck of them. There are some small expansions where you can add to those special building decks that just do things really differently. Certainly there are ways I like to play this game strategy-wise, but really there's a ton of different ways to play this game. This is easily my favorite Uwe Rosenberg game. It's just fantastic. I love it. So that is Le Havre. And you played this once, Alex, right?
Le Too Heavy is how I would describe it. Le Too Heavy.
Really? Le Too Heavy?
Yep.
That's the extent of your cleverness right now?
Yep, that's about it. Hey, my number 6 is also an Uwe Rosenberg game. It's a different one. It's Patchwork.
Oh my goodness.
Patchwork, still alive, not killed by Bahrenpark. There was an assassination attempt by Bahrenpark at Patchwork. That assassination attempt was not successful. Bahrenpark is a fantastic game. Patchwork, for me, still holds up as one of the quintessential awesome two-player games. Incredibly elegant, incredibly puzzly, can be really tricky at times, easy enough to teach, short rules, lots of depth. Ideal for me, Sean. Ideal for me. It's one that I really want to get to the table more and more, and what it does with that Tetris-y mechanic has not been matched to me. Has not been matched in my book. It's been tried. It's been attempted. He tried to do it with Cottage Garden. It was somewhat attempted with Bahrenpark, which, again, I like Bahrenpark a lot. For me, Patchwork still is the cream of the crop because of just how elegant it is and how those mechanics all fit together in a beautiful way to make what, honestly, I think, Sean, one of the perfect date night games.
Sure, I'd agree with that. No, it's a fantastic game. It's in my top 39, Alex, so...
Okay, well, excellent. High praise, I guess. So that's number 6, Patchwork.
Number 5.
My number 5, into the top half of the list here, is a newcomer, but definitely not a new game. In fact, if I'm looking back on my list, I believe this one's been in my top 10 before, as recently as 2014 and 2015. This is the highest it's ever been on any list I've had, though, which kind of shows you where my thoughts on this game are. And that game is Castles of Burgundy, coming in at number 5 for me. This is my favorite Stefan Feld game. And this is a game that I have, as I've become more and more of a gamer, has grown on me more and more. You appreciate the combo-y pieces of this game. It doesn't hold up on an art production level for me, but in terms of how this game clicks together, how it plays online, how it plays in person at a table, how it plays in card form. The core of this game is so unbelievably satisfying to me, and such a juicy game that I just want to get to the table time and time and time again, with multiple paths to victory, with cool ways of doing things, with timing, with dice used in an interesting way, with the mitigation baked in. There's so many things this game does beautifully. It's my favorite point salad game. I love a lot of Feld games. I've had Aquasphere on the list from time to time. Aquasphere didn't make the cut this year. This is sort of my Feld placeholder, if you will. I think it's worthy of where it's at, though, because if I'm looking at the rest of the list below it, there aren't games that I think are better than this one, other than the 4 ahead of it, which I guess I'm describing how a top 10 list works. But yeah, that's how things go.
So quick aside, since you reference Aquasphere, which is my least favorite Feld, by the way. And I know it's been your favorite Feld, but apparently not anymore.
Right.
Last night, Jeremy and Matt they brought out Aquasphere, and I guess it's their favorite Feld too. The whole time I was just giving them the stink eye. I'm just like, ugh. But hey,
well, at least it's a Feld of some kind. It's a Feld.
Sure. Yeah,
hey, we didn't have Feldmas in July, by the way. So belated happy Feldmas in July to you, sir.
What? You hate the idea of Feldmas in July?
Well, I'm wishing you one anyway.
Well, no, forget you. By the way, again, back to Aquasphere, Raquel has said, yeah, I would totally get rid of Aquasphere, except it's just a Feld, so we just have to keep it. I'm like, oh, all right, fair enough.
Oh, man. Wow. Even Raquel doling out the harshness on her celebrity crush / board game idol, Stefan Feld. Castles of Burgundy is amazing, by the way. And I think this one's been on your list from time to time. I don't know if it's on this year, Sean.
It was on my list in 2015 as my number 3. And I believe it was number 4 last year. Yeah, number 4 last.
Hey, it may still be on this list, or it may not. We'll find out. Maybe now. Sean, what's your number 5 game?
My number 5 is Castles of Scythe. No, just Scythe.
Oh.
Yeah, Castles of Scythe. Wait, I just said it, not intending to say it that way. Scythe, just Scythe. The game is called Scythe. It's just Scythe. Boy. This is the second year that it's been on. It was eligible last year, and it was my number 9 last year. This is from Stonemaier Games. And this is a game where the mechanics are amazing. I love the gameplay. And but the art, it's not fair to say the art takes it to another level. Because like I said, the mechanics themselves are amazing. But the art is just incredible. I mean, the art is what inspired Jamie Stegmaier to create this game, right? And so you take the art, you take the tremendous production value that Stonemaier put into this. I mean, Stonemaier does an amazing job production-wise. And then the gameplay is awesome. It is such a tense game every time. There is, this Euro element of the resource management. There's the action selection. There's a little bit of engine building. And then there's combat. It's got a little bit of that dudes on a map feel to it. And it's just such a fantastic game. I was a little reluctant to put it on last year because we had just reviewed it 2 episodes before, I think it was. And I said, I think it's going to have some staying power, and it absolutely has. I love playing this game. I've played it numerous times since the review. And I expect to see this pretty soon on your list here, Alex. I'd be surprised if it fell off. So
it's a world you like to live in, for sure.
Yeah.
It's the world that is built by this game is a world that you definitely feel like you live in when you play this game. And I think, amazing job. And maybe I'll have more to say about that soon.
Interesting. So that's my number 5, Scythe from Stonemaier Games.
Number 4.
My number 4 has been on my top 10 since the beginning, Alex. Since the beginning. It was number 8 in episode 1. In 2015, it was number 6. It stayed at number 6 last year, and now here it is, climbing up 2 spots. It is The Resistance Avalon.
This is the biggest surprise of your list to me right now, for sure, is how high up this game is.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some fairness to that. I absolutely love this game. I love it so much that I am looking for some game to beat this. I'm looking for some social deduction game to dethrone this game because this is so high up in my estimation that if some game could top this, then it would just be incredible. It would just be incredible.
What about Werewords?
Werewords is great. It's good. It's fine. It's fine. But no. The Resistance Avalon, there's psychology, there are facial cues, there is the logic of it. And we've said that every time this game comes up, we have said how it doesn't hurt that I'm really good at this game.
Yes.
Really, really good. So this is a social deduction game. Initially it was The Resistance, which has this kind of dystopian future feel to it. This is the version that is in King Arthur's court. And you have you're on hidden teams, and you're trying to figure out who's on what team. If you are a loyal follower of Merlin, you're trying to succeed 3 out of 5 missions first. Otherwise, if you're a minion of Mordred, you're trying to fail 3 of 5 missions first. And there are so many choices to make in this game. And the game is more than the sum of its parts. It's more than just the mechanics. It's the interaction among the players. It's the lying. It's I love being a minion. I love being a bad guy and then throwing another bad guy under the bus just because strategically it makes sense. Right? I love the hurt feelings in this game. I love when you look someone in the face and you're like, you have got to believe me. I am not a minion. And it's like, well, of course a minion would say that. But it's like, no. Think about it. I would never have done this if I were a minion. I would never have done this. And then that feeling at the end where you flip your card and it's contrary to what people thought. Alex, I love this game. I love it so much. And considering that it's continued to stay on my list, like I said, it was I think 866. I love it. I'm always looking for excuses to play this. Problem is, a lot of people don't like playing it around here anymore. which is really unfortunate. I've even suggested it at cons, and you're like, oh, I want to play it. So whatever, man.
I think I'd rather play something like Werewords. For instance, I loved how Werewords worked with the words. I'd rather play One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which has a quick iteration time. I like what Resistance Avalon does. I don't think it's a bad game by any means. I just like how other social deduction games handle something like that a bit better at the moment.
Okay, here's what it comes down to, right? I am a person, and this is me kind of being honest, right? I am a person of, I would like to think, above average intelligence. I'm not brilliant. By no stretch. No, wait. Hey, I'm not brilliant, right? I'm not some genius. I'm not some, but I want to be, like, in my mind, I want to be Benedict.
The very best, like no one ever was?
What? No, I want to be like Benedict Cumberbatch. I want to be Sherlock, right? I want to be Spock. I want to be Paul Muad'Dib from Dune. I want to be a Mentat from Dune that can just put all these pieces together. Playing the Resistance and the Resistance Avalon is the only time in my life when I feel like that starts to actually happen, right? Where it's like I just feel I'm plugging all of these minute pieces of information into place to create some greater conclusion, and it makes me feel brilliant, right?
I will say this, on the social deduction side of things, the one game that we were on the same team for Werewords, not the one where you bungled it, but the one where we were on the same team, I knew as soon as I saw you were on the team with me, I was going to probably be in pretty good shape as the mayor. There was going to be some way we were going to work this out and have it succeed.
Sure.
And sure enough, we were right. But yeah, no, you're good at this kind of game, and I get the respect. I'm surprised it ended up trending upward on the list.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised it's on the list. I'm surprised it trended upwards on the list, given all the other amazing stuff that's come out.
Oh, absolutely. So that's my number 4, the Resistance Avalon.
My number 4 is the result of one of the toughest decisions I had in this list. In this case, the very bottom of the list was a tough decision point, and this was a tough decision point. My number 4 is Scythe. Okay. Down a spot from last year's list. This was a game that I didn't expect to love. It's a game I didn't expect to even like, really. I don't like this dudes on a map kind of style. I don't like battle combat heavy kinds of games. Certain of those kinds of games straight up make me feel stupid. I feel dumb playing them. Scythe, for whatever reason, has clicked with me from game one. And by way of this, I'll tell a story. Right before I left, it was actually the last game I played in New Mexico was, in fact, Scythe. I was over at a friend's house in Santa Fe, and we had a group of 4 of us, got Scythe at the table. I was playing as Saxony, which I kindly refer to as the Underminer. They are, for folks who've played this game, they're the faction that can complete gold cards, as many as they want to get stars, and as many combats as they need to gain stars. During the course of this game, I was able to use tunnels to steal resources and build a building on the same turn twice from people who'd left their villagers to themselves, to their own devices, and I swoop in, steal the wood, build a building, gets me some extra points at the end of the game. And then I ended up ending this game, Sean, with a 3-combat Saxony turn. 3-combat turn, where I put out 3 stars and won it yet again. I have yet to lose at this game still. I know you maintain that if we were to play sometime soon, you'd be in better shape because now you understand it, you're not experimenting so much, and blah, 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 yada, yada. In any case, I love, love, love this game. And I think I'm about to talk about my number 3. The reason this is number 4 instead of still number 3, it had the staying power. It stayed where it belonged. I've enjoyed this one still. The one edge that the game that's number 3 on my list got was the sheer ability for me to get it to the table. And the thing with Scythe is it's a commitment time-wise in terms of the setup and in terms of the time you'll play it on the table. Not the kind of commitment that you'll see from a lifestyle game or a long-term game where you're literally planning a day out for it. But it takes some scheduling time. And that allowed a new game to edge it out. So,
number 3.
My number 3 is Flip Ships. It is that one game, boom, it got dropped. The mic done got dropped. There's always one game each year for this list that I have just played it recently, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to still love it and still be playing it time and time and time again. For reference, Baseball Highlights, the first year I played that one, it was number 1 on my list immediately. I played it at Dice Tower Con. It was number 1 on my list. I knew it. The following year, there wasn't anything at Dice Tower Con, but Scythe. Scythe was the game that I played, knew I was going to love it, and Matai and I eventually made an appearance too, but Scythe was the one that was in close proximity. Sean, for reference, I have played Flip Ships
yeah.
approximately 30 times since we acquired this as a review copy at Dice Tower Con. On this trip alone, I played it with Mike Fitzgerald 3 times. By the way, he loves this game, thinks it's amazing too, kind of validated some of my thoughts on it. I played it with Jamie Stegmeyer twice. We played 2 rounds of it, man. And I played it in Cincinnati once, and then here in Quebec, I played it again. That is 7 plays just in the span of less than a week on this road trip. I have not gotten sick of this game. I'm not going to get sick of this game anytime soon, and here's why. It is a dexterity game that brings dexterity to a whole nother level because it incorporates strategy. It incorporates that cooperative element. It's amazing, has amazing art and amazing design decisions with the production in terms of the 2-sided player boards, in terms of the clear iconography. The mothership is just cool. It looks cool on the table, and they included, just for kicks, a 4-player speed variant of this, just in case you want to do that. It's a lot of fun. My copy is already starting to show signs of wear, not because it's a bad production, but because I've played this thing almost to death so far. I love flip ships, and I'm hoping other people who get their hands on this see what's so special about it too. It for me is a true standout, and Ken Klenko, I think, did a fabulous job with what he did. The fact that a dexterity game like this can get a 5 from you, Sean, I think shows how well designed this game is. So for me, flip ships, an easy number 3 and not one I think it will certainly be on my top 10 a year from now. I would be surprised if it wasn't.
Very cool. Yeah, very solid game. Well, speaking of solid games, my number 3 is Motainai, coming in for the second time on my top 10 list. Last year it was 5, so you are correct in your prediction that it would move up on the list, which it did. By the way, going back to flip ships, did I guess that it was going to be number 3 or did I say number 4?
You said number 4.
Number 4.
And you were close.
Okay.
It was either going to be Scythe or Flip Ships at 3, and it was just the playability edge and the amount of times I can get it to the table. And to be clear also, the number of different groups I can get it in with.
Sure.
I can play this one with my family and they've enjoyed it. I can play this one with serious gamers and they enjoy it too. So I think it's that wide spectrum that tends to have Flip Ships be a little higher on my list. It's a close call for sure, though.
That makes sense. So yeah, Motainai moved up from number 5 to number 3. And this is a game, Alex, that we both fell in love with. In fact, I expect that you're going to be talking about this as your next game. I'd be very, very surprised if not. So this is from one of the most brilliant card game designers, the master of multi-use cards, Carl Chudik, designer of Glory to Rome, Uchronia, Innovation, a bunch of games, right? Carl Chudik is brilliant, and I think Motainai is his masterpiece. I know a lot of people are going to say Glory to Rome is a better game. I love Glory to Rome. I have a fantastic black box edition that is one of the jewels of my board game collection, but ultimately Motainai is just brilliant. So the way I compare it to Glory to Rome is Glory to Rome, you do things incrementally in Glory to Rome, right? You're building these works and you add a resource to it, and then later you add a resource to it. In Motainai, you have to do everything at once. It's these big, sweeping, elegant actions. It is there's this randomness to it, but you can certainly plan for that randomness. You can mitigate that randomness. All of the different 54 cards, they're all unique. And so they all have different effects once you build them that can completely change one game and one strategy different from the next game to the next. It is amazing. I love it. I just love this game. We have people all the time asking us to teach them this game because they hear us talking about this almost as much as Baseball Highlights 2045. First mention, boom, in your face,
No,
Alex.
I already said it. I already said it. No. Yeah, I absolutely
did. Did you say first mention?
I did say first mention when I said it. I think it might be the Skype connection was a little iffy. I definitely said it. Because when I was listing off my list, I said, number 1, Baseball Highlights 2045, first mention.
Dang it.
I have the recording, Sean. Yeah, take that.
All right, anyway, moving on. We have people all the time ask us to play this. And this is the type of game that you can get really good at. And when you have 2 people, and by the way, it plays 2 to 5. I prefer it 2. I'll play it at 3. Anything more than that, no thank you. But when you have 2 people playing this that are excellent at this game. It is such an incredible battle of wits and battle of wills. I love playing this with you. I love playing it with our good buddy Mike Fitzgerald, because we've lived and breathed this game, and we just have such a it's just so great. I love how deep the gameplay is in this. And I know for a lot of people, it's kind of a high point of entry, because the rules just seem a little convoluted to a lot of people at first. You got to give it a chance. It is fantastic. So that's my number 3, Motainai.
Number 2.
All right, my number 2, Alex, you've already mentioned, is Castles of Burgundy. And in fact, this is its third year on the list. It was my number 3 game in 2015. It was my number 4 game, so it went down in 2016, but now it's climbed back up to number 2. It is easily my favorite Stefan Feld game. And kind of a lot of the things you were saying, how you appreciate the different combos, the elegance of the game, despite all of the production issues, the art issues. I love this game. I love playing it in real life with 2 players, with 3 players, with 4 players. I love playing it online. There was just something so pure about this game that when I compare it to all the other amazing games on my list, I'm like, I love it. I love this game. I will not turn down a play of this. If someone is just like, hey, Castle of Burgundy, I'm like, boom, I'm there. Totally there. I don't think there's another Feld game that I would say that. I mean, like Trajan's a 6, but I feel like I sometimes have to be maybe in the right mood for it, but Castles of Burgundy, I love it. I love teaching it to new players. I remember the first time I picked up this game, it was actually a math trade. And I came home, I picked it up, and I said, oh, I'm going to kind of just play a 2-player game to get a feel for it. And as I was playing it that first time, having just read the rules, I was like, this is brilliant. This is incredible. And it was fairly early on in my modern foray into board games. I mean, I did Magic and I did miniatures games and whatnot. But as far as, and this was like right before we started the podcast, or a couple months before. Anyway, Castles of Burgundy, it's fantastic. Alex, why don't you tell us about your number 2 game, Motainai?
Hey, it's Motainai. Good call. I think my list has become fairly predictable at this point, so I'll try and go fairly quickly, at least with this one, because Sean, you already talked a lot about it. The one thing I'll say is I'm still finding cool ways to win in this game. I just played a series with Mike Fitzgerald while I was up in Colorado. Best of 3 series, that tends to be how we do it.
Yep.
The first game, I got him in a paper rush. Paper rush on the helpers side of things. Was able to get five down over there and beat him pretty quickly in that one. The second game, I also won, and this had the most satisfying ending I think I found, and I can't remember exactly how I pulled it off. It was the card that lets you steal something and get an extra action. So I was able to steal a Smith from him, get an extra action, and I had a Smith helper. So that gave me 3 Smith actions, and I had, after digging through and setting this up perfectly, had a handful of metal cards. 5 metal cards to be exact. And so I dropped a Shuriken, stole work from him, dropped 2 other metal works, and won that way. It was amazing. I loved it. I think it's Doll is the card that I'm referring to, that steals the Smith and lets you get an extra action. I found different ways to win. A turtle win in this one is incredibly satisfying. I love that game, and love the fact that I'm still discovering new ways to play it and new ways to play it well. It's held up so incredibly well in my estimation. It is a masterwork. I would agree with you, Sean. It is a masterwork in game design. And it's one that every time I get in a series of this, a good series of this, I think, man, is this better than Baseball Highlights 2045? Is this going to edge it out? And then I play my
Number 1.
Then I play my number 1 game of all time, Baseball Highlights 2045, and all that goes by the wayside. This one, Sean, has continued to hold up, not only because I've become kind of known for being a fan of this game, it's the fact that we've been able to build a community around it just in terms of the tournaments play. We had that tournament Dice Tower Con, we've had those tournaments in Albuquerque. It's a game that continues to get new content added in for it, new ways and new powers that all work together in cool, interesting ways. New strategies, a lot of fun. And you know what? I finally played this one head-to-head against Mike Fitzgerald. I finally got in a best-of-7 series for all the love I've dished out of this game and all the interactions I've had with Mike, and he's been an awesome guy to know, great designer. I'm excited for a lot of his newer stuff that's going to be coming down the pipeline soon, including Dragon Island, which R&R's putting out at Gen Con. This game has continued to hold up. And I haven't lost my love for it. I just haven't. And I don't think I'm going to. I think this is one that it's going to be hard to dethrone. If there's a game that ends up dethroning this, it's going to have to be one heck of a board game. By the way, that Mike Fitzgerald series, I did get him in 5 games. So awesome there. But yeah, ever since I played this one, this has been number 1 on my list. The theme, the gameplay, the enthusiasm I have for it is not diminishing, and I don't think will anytime soon. So that's Baseball Highlights 2045 and my little mini ramble on it. Go play this game. Go try this game. Even if you're not a baseball fan, I think you'll find something you're going to like.
So, yeah, that's been your number 1 game now 3 years in a row. So, my number 1 game, and let's have you guess out, Alex. Here are the games from my top 10 last year that have not been listed yet. Roll for the Galaxy, Arcadia Quest, Pathfinder the Adventure Card Game, Terra Mystica, and Kemet. Which of those, if assuming it's one of those, spoiler alert, it is. It's one of those that's my number 1. So which one is it?
So here's the thing. I made a prediction earlier that Kemet was going to fall. If it falls from number 1 to off of your list, that would be a pretty big feat. At the same time, your number 2 game has not been listed. That's Terra Mystica. I think it's far more likely. It's possible. Here's the thing. To me, it's interesting because it's possible that either of these has fallen off for different reasons.
To be clear,
yeah.
You're saying you think it's either Terra Mystica or Kemet.
Yes.
Okay. So what's it going to be?
Am I correct?
One of those 2 is my number 1 game.
And one of those 2 is not on your list anymore.
Is not on my list, which either way is an upset. Either way.
Okay.
For a number 1 or a number 2 to fall off, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, by the way, it happened with me. Both of my, in fact, if I'm looking back at my list, my number 1 and number 2 and number 3, number 4, number 5. Oh yeah, my entire top 10 list except for 1 game has fallen off of my list since the first time we did this.
Okay, well let's do this, right? Let's talk about the history of Kemet. Year 1, right? When we first started, Kemet was number 7. Next year, in 2015, it was number 10. And then in 2016, it jumped to number 1. All right, so that's Kemet, right? 7, 10, 1. Very, very, wide range there. Terra Mystica, that first year, was my number 2 game. Then in 2015, my number 1 game. And then last year, 2016, my number 2 game. 2, 1, 2.
So here's my arguments for each of these. In Kemet,
I hope people are enjoying this. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, great.
I hope people enjoy this.
Kemet, I know you've played Kemet since we recorded this a year ago.
Yeah.
I know, here's the thing. I don't know if you've played Terra Mystica in that time.
Okay, full disclosure.
I don't remember.
Let's do full disclosure. I have played Kemet, 3-4 times since our last top 10. I've played Terra Mystica 2 to 3 times in real life since the last top 10, and I've probably played it like 8 or 9 times since the app came out.
Okay, well, I think that answers my question, and this may be dead wrong. My intuition, my sense of this is Terra Mystica is your number 1, and maybe you're going to disappoint me by throwing Kemet out there, but Terra Mystica is my guess. Final answer, locking it in.
Okay, you are incorrect, sir. It is Kemet. Kemet will stay my number 1 game. Terra Mystica, a game that I love dearly, that started off 3 years ago as my number 2 game and has kind of held up in there, has fallen off the list. And I don't have my list of honorable mentions with me. I accidentally left them at work, but I think it was like 11 or 12. And part of it, and I was surprised because as soon as I mentioned the app, I thought that would be the clue for you, because a lot of times really solid apps can kill the cardboard version, right?
Sure.
And I don't know that it's killed it, but I just, it doesn't have the same allure for me that it once did. I still love it. But no, Kemet, man, I love this game. I got to play it at Dice Tower Con, which has kind of been a Dice Tower Con tradition. I played it with Raquel and Ellie and Berkey. And I love everything about this game. I really do. It's just such an incredible game. It is a Euro game, but it's got dudes on the map. There's some slight resource management. There is, the customizing of your empire by building these different power tiles. This is easily my number 1 game. It was not that. This was not a tough call. I definitely looked at it, and I looked hard at comparing other games to it. I didn't want to just accept it as, gospel that it was going to be number 1. But realistically, I love it. I love it.
So for me, the reason I thought there was a chance it would drop lower or drop off your list is my perception of how miserable that Dice Tower Con play looked. Not because anyone else was having necessarily a bad time, but just because it took so unbelievably long and didn't seem like it seemed to be one of those like, oh yeah, we'll be done in 20 minutes, and it was done in like an hour and a half after that point.
There's a certain tension to the game that I love. No, it's just really solid. Yeah, so that's my number one Kemet for the second year in a row. So just want to talk about real quick the games that fell off my list. Roll for the Galaxy, not on the list, but definitely a contender. Pathfinder the Adventure card game, there is an example of an app that killed the real game. I mean, I loved playing this with you, Alex, but it's hard to get to the table. It's hard to play that campaign style game, but the app for it is brilliant, just brilliant. And then finally, Arcadia Quest, which was my number 8. It fell off. I still like it, but it wasn't, not really a consideration. What about you? What else fell off for you?
So, you mentioned Pathfinder the Adventure card game. That fell off the list. Mysterium, in a last-second call, just barely fell off the list. The one that was surprising for me in looking back on it was Sheriff of Nottingham falling off the list.
I was surprised.
For me, Sean, it's a matter of mental space. Does this game come up in my head as something I want to play a lot? And I love Sheriff of Nottingham. I love that bluffing mechanic. I love how good it feels to sneak one by border control, so to speak. And I consider it, by the way, an honorable mention still.
Sure.
It hasn't fallen so far off the face of the earth. I was definitely considering this. And at the end of the day, the games that ended up on my list just would come to mind more often and are games I think I'd rather play more than Sheriff. And I love Sheriff. I think Arcane Wonders did a great job with that one. It's just a matter of that one. Mysterium just barely, even as I was doing this, that was my number 11, just barely off the list. I've still gotten that one to the table. Games I was, Glass Road fell off the list. I didn't really consider putting it on the top 10.
Which I predicted.
I think I'd had a recent... Yeah, you did predict that. You actually were very good on the predictions. I think the only one you were off on was Power Grid.
Yeah.
Was the only... Everything else you were pretty much
It
dead
fell
on,
to 9, so just barely held on.
It barely held on, but it was on there. So... Glass Road, I'd gotten another play of it recently enough with Cameron, and it was good. It just wasn't top 10 list good for me.
I was surprised that it found its way onto your top 10 last year. Because I would say the same thing. It's good. It's really good. But not top 10 material, at least for me. So
other honorable mentions, I'll list 2 that I considered but didn't put on the list. One for lack of plays, another one just, I don't know if it'll ever make a top 10, but I really like it. Hanamakoji was one I considered for a top 10 list. I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of that game. And this one I've only played twice, and if I get more plays of it, there's a chance this makes it onto the list. First Class. I think First Class has a good chance of taking that Power Grid spot or bumping near and far, or something along those lines on the lower end of the list. I've played that game exactly twice, and I've enjoyed both plays. I love what they do with the modules. I love the elegance to it. I love the fact that at every player count, it sets up the exact same way. I think that's the coolest thing. And First Class to me, rocking the house, and definitely is going to be on my top 10 of 2017 by the time we do that list at the end of the year.
Okay, fair enough. So just real quick looking at these lists, both of us had 4 games that showed up for the first time. Some of them new games and some of them older games that just finally found their way on. I have 3 games, Zolkin, The Resistance Avalon, and Kemet, which have been on my list all 4 times. You have none, Alex. Castles of Burgundy,
0.
Patchwork, and Baseball Highlights, and Power Grid are the 3 that have stayed on. So I think that's pretty interesting. Honorable mention for me, I mean, I kind of mentioned some of them that have fallen off, but I would also say that Millennium Blades is certainly a top contender. In fact, when you look at all the people that were guessing my top 10, most of them had Millennium Blades as some of their guesses. So yeah. But real quick, Alex, we should mention the contest, like I just said. There is a winner. We had like 6 or 7 people that guessed 7 of the 10 games that eventually made it onto my top 10 list. However, one person, and only one person, guessed 8 of the 10 games, and that one person is going to be the winner of a copy of Lisboa, courtesy Eagle Griffin Games. Thanks to them for providing that awesome game, which, by the way, I got to play last night at Duke's Dice Game Night for my second time. That winner, Jake Bach from Draft Mechanic. He won.
Oh.
And the key to it, he was pretty close on a lot of stuff, right? 8 of 10. a lot of people didn't guess Combat Commander. There were some that did. He guessed it, but then also was pretty correct about other stuff. The things that, like, he thought Terra Mystica would still be on it, and he thought that Millennium Blades would still be on it. So those were the two quote-unquote mistakes. So Jake, our buddy, you're going to get a copy of Lisboa, courtesy Eagle Griffin Games. Congrats to you, and way to listen to the show and know your Sean. Way to know your Sean.
Way to know your Sean. Excellent. But hey, we have a contest to announce as well, a new contest associated with this, and we want to hear your top 10. In fact, we want to hear your top 10 lists so much.
So much.
We have a contest associated with that. So much. We're going to have a thread on the Guild where we're going to have you post your top 10 lists. And if you do post your top 10 games of all time, you're going to be eligible for one of 3 prizes. Either Guilds of London from Tasty Minstrel Games, one of the sponsors of our show. Albuquerque local publisher, Level 99 Games, is providing a copy of Argent the Consortium, which they have a second edition of that out on Kickstarter. And Arcane Wonders, another sponsor of the show, providing a copy of Viral. So 3 lucky winners on the Guild who provide their top 10 lists will win one of those games. So go to the Guild, check it out, and you'll have until, just like the other contest, August 24th to get your name in for that.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, that's going to do it for our updated top 10 list. Top 10 of all time gives you another picture, another snapshot of where the Duke's tastes happen to lie at this point in time. So Alex, there are a lot of options out there right now if you want to get an amazing board game table for you to play your board games on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a house or a table at this point, but, if I had one of those, I think that would be a pretty big priority for me.
Well, here's the deal. There is some considerable expense that goes along with those, but what a lot of people already have is a table of their own. And so instead of buying a brand new table, perhaps you just need something to put on top of a table that you already own. And our buddy Berkey has come up with a solution. It is called Game Toppers. And you can go to Game Toppers LLC to see these amazing table toppers that fit snugly and securely on standard tables that you already have in your house. They combine premium wood that are beautifully stained along with military-grade aluminum to help keep the weight down. But it's still incredibly strong. It's going to maintain its presence on the table. There's some 3M grips so it's not sliding around or falling off. And then he's going to offer some incredible thematic gaming mats that you can put on top of these. So there's Starfields if you want to play X-Wing. There's Dungeons for role-playing games. There's a bunch of different options that you have to choose from. Now, this is going to be on Kickstarter fairly soon, so keep an eye out on Kickstarter. But if you're going to be at Gen Con, you can enter for a chance to win the Scotland Yard Deluxe Package, which will get you a 38 by 60 deluxe game topper table. To do that, go to GameTopperLLC.com, but also go check out Game Toppers at a bunch of different publishers. Arcane Wonders is going to have them. Stronghold Games is going to have them. So you can go demo games at all these different publishers on these amazing game toppers. Alex, I got to play this, play Kemet, in fact, on a game topper table that Berkey brought to Dice Tower Con. These are awesome. Cup holders, accessories, goblet holders, all sorts of stuff. You got to see this too, right?
I got to play a copy of The Godfather on a Game Toppers table, I believe, and that was a pretty cool experience as well. So, yeah, it held the cards really well for that game, manages your hand in an interesting way, and quite frankly, it looks pretty dang cool. If I had a table or a house, I'd be interested in getting one of these.
Well, fair enough. So definitely keep your eye on GameToppersLLC.com and go visit the different publishers that are going to have them at Gen Con. All right, Alex. Well, like you've mentioned, every anniversary episode, we kind of do a state of the Duchy to talk about where we've been and where we're going. And certainly this is a time of change for the Dukes of Dice podcast. I'm still really excited for the community that's grown up around us, for the Guild, the community here in Albuquerque, and I'm excited to see what you're going to do wherever you happen to wind up. Are you going to build up a community around you? I don't know. Are you? Do you think? What do you think?
I'm going to try. Oh, yeah, I think it's likely. I think so. I don't want to talk about the city or the publisher, but there's a good chance, a better than average chance, I think, that I have a marketing job lined up with a board game publisher. We'll see. It's nothing set in stone. I should know right after Gen Con one way or the other. And yeah, my expectation is I'm going to try and build up that same community that we've built in Albuquerque in wherever this city is. And I think that's key. I think a big part of our show, and I listened back to episode 1, as I mentioned, was community. We've always been, or tried to be, community first. And that community that's built up in Albuquerque with the help in the past couple of years of Empire Board Game Library is unbelievable. It's allowed us to get in reviews of new games much easier. It's allowed us to do what we do on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, which we've been told by other podcasters is a completely insane idea.
Oh my goodness. So is.
For the last 3 years has been an insane thing. I will say this, though, on that other front, it felt a little weird not doing one this past week, Sean. It felt really weird.
Yeah, it certainly did. It was weird. So typically I'll edit the podcast Saturday. It was weird to wake up Saturday and not have to do that. I mean, certainly I was kept busy with all the craziness going on around here. But yeah, it was weird. It was weird to see the guild was so quiet in an off week. And I like you said before, we'll probably figure out some things to do to keep that going. But it's amazing that there is so much excitement for each episode, people naming the episode and contributing about the various games that we're going to be discussing. I love it. I love that we incorporate the guild as much as we do. I love seeing all those familiar, I was going to say faces, but I guess those familiar usernames there that we see, week in and week out, contributing, and it's great. I love it. And then I love getting to meet these same people at cons. It's just fantastic. I love, every now and then we'll have someone who happens to be coming through Albuquerque and is like, hey, I'm going to stop by Duke's Dice game night or whatever. That's how we first met Jake and Danielle from Draft Mechanic. They were here in town. They weren't listeners at the time, but we got to meet them. And I think that ability to participate in community, whether it's local community, whether it's on the guild or on Twitter or just kind of hobnobbing with other media creators, it's cool. It's a fantastic opportunity that I don't think we would have had otherwise, right?
Well, and for me, when I took that trip around the world, the fact that I had a place to stay, a place to stay in New Zealand, I had people I could meet in Singapore, people I could meet in Denmark, was huge and an unbelievable thing to think that this thing that we built, from you approaching me and saying, hey, I want to do a board gaming podcast, what do you think? From two guys you met playing on a kickball team, for that to make enough of an impact that someone's going to take time to listen to that all the way across the world, it definitely hits you. It hits you in a really cool way, and I'm hoping we can keep keep being worthy of that, even if we're not going to be publishing quite as frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sean, for instance, I saw a post this weekend that struck me, when thinking about you and the toll that this has taken. Obviously, the weeks and weeks of editing every single week, and some of that you've gotten some relief from. But I saw a post recently from moderator Chris from Flip the Table, who did a fantastic podcast for a while. They did 111 episodes, and they just wrapped up last month. And he posted a picture of himself and his daughter at a baseball game on a Saturday, and said, you know what, I'm better to be here than editing a podcast on a Saturday.
Sure. 20
times better. And thinking of you as a father and thinking of those moments you're going to have with Chewy, those opportunities to get a game to the table sooner than you think.
Right.
And not, basic Haba games for long, but going from Haba and I'm sure playing Zolkin by the time she's 12.
12? Come on. She'll probably be like 7. She'll play Zolkin when she's 7.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
I'd probably be better at it than I am.
Oh, yeah, easily.
So, but yeah, thinking of that and thinking of that time that you're going to get back, I think it makes sense to make this a more sustainable model. As tough as it is, and as much of an empty feeling as I'm sure we'll get, and maybe even some really hardcore fans are going to get from that. And like I said, we're still figuring out ways to fill in the gaps. From a practical perspective, it limits us financially because Patreon we done on a per episode basis. And now that effectively gets slashed in half when you do it every other week. So thanks to the Patreon folks who have supported us the way that they have. And at the end of the day, it's going to mean less support to do things like, I thought of maybe going to Essen. Based on my crazy life, I'm not sure that was going to happen anyway. But, that was something that might have been a consideration for some of that Patreon money, and now we have to kind of budget it a little more thoughtfully. So, but yeah, to see the community that's grown up around this, and to see the support we get in different forms, whether it be the well wishes you got when there was a tragedy in Raquel's family, and by extension your
absolutely.
family, to have the support for me as I've been going through all of the crazy different things I'm going through, and the uncertainty that continues. It hasn't been fully resolved yet. To be frank with folks, my plans for life run out just about after Gen Con. And there's sort of a fork in the road at Gen Con that we'll see what happens with this job, but that job will dictate a lot of where I go next from there. So, yeah, this show has been a great constant as part of that, and it's something, in resetting my whole life, it's something I came back to and wanted to come back to, and I'm excited to come back to. And I'm excited to make board gaming an even bigger part of my life, even if I'm not in New Mexico doing it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And just kind of, tracking back to what you said, I mean, there have been so many moments where I've been editing the podcast and Chewy will come up to me and she'll be like, just come play this with me. She has this game. It's called McDonald's. It's not a game. It's just like, it's, a pretend thing that we do. And she likes to pretend that she is working at McDonald's, and I have to order something from McDonald's, and I have to pay her with a fake credit card or with money. And then she brings it to me, and then I have to pretend to eat it. That kind of thing. And so whether it's that, or whether it's any of the other little, things she likes to do, I'm there most Saturdays and I'm editing, and I'll be like, Chewy, I would love to play with you. Just give me like another hour and I'll be right there. And I'm just like, man, I'm going to regret that. As much as I love this podcast, as much as I love putting it together, and I love interacting with all of our listeners and everyone out there, it's fantastic. Our buddy Nick, who's been a big supporter of the show in many ways, he told me, he's like, just, be careful. Make sure that this is something that you still find fun. Make sure this is something that that can be sustainable. And so I don't want to say that I was nearing burnout, but I think you had noticed it between work and family and all of that. Were we to continue weekly, it may not have been sustainable for much longer. And so I think finding some balance is going to be a good thing. I really do. And I think having to wait a week between recording episodes, it might make it feel like more of an event, right? Whereas now it's just like, okay, this is what we do every week. We rain or shine, we go through the motions, and it happens, and it's been happening. So I'm excited to see what this does for the show, if it kind of gives me a newfound energy, I suppose, or whatnot. I'm excited to see. I'm gonna miss putting out an episode every week, but I'm gonna enjoy getting some time back. And I'm gonna enjoy having some more time to play games too. So, and maybe not being such a slave to a review playing schedule.
Yeah.
So
a chance to play more of what you love.
Oh yeah. It's going to be all Combat Commander and Kemet from now on.
Oh, thank goodness I'm out of New Mexico, right?
Yeah. So, and speaking of that too, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's going to happen for you. It's kind of crazy that you have no idea what's going to happen. Like you said, your plans end after Gen Con, which I think says a lot about us as gamers, right? So you have your plans are kind of short-lived. You don't like the big, medium, heavy or heavy Euro games, right? But I do. So it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be slaving away as a lawyer for the next however long, and but it's going to be interesting to see what you wind up doing, where you wind up, and what effect that's going to have on the podcast.
I think I'm committed to making it a part of my life in whatever form and fashion. And I think this remote recording, has actually gone better than previous ones we've attempted, I think, generally. Okay. And hopefully that continues and we kind of find our groove there. I think having each other on webcam so we can see our beautiful shirtless bodies tends to help with that situation too. But yeah, no, I think that's apt. I think you, in short, in gamery terms, basically said I have commitment issues, which I don't know.
No,
In some ways, I guess is true.
Long-term planning issues.
Oh, okay, sure.
So
Excellent.
you're fine playing Era 1 of the Colonists. I want to plan for
Right.
Era 4.
You're also saying I'm going to have a very hard time in retirement too, which I don't know.
Well, no, not quite that. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be different. And some of the other things, like you mentioned, we're going to be filling in some other stuff here and there. We're trying to keep the production side of things, at least on my end, a little bit lower. So it's not just me doing more of the same, but also, our good buddy Matthew, who for the last couple of years now has kind of been helping with some planning and reaching out to publishers and some social media stuff. He's been a big help, and we kind of named him. What was the title we gave him?
I don't remember.
It's like supervising content editor or something. Something like that. So
he needs like a Duke Suzanne kind of title, like Master of Fireworks.
Okay. So Matthew, we put out a call a couple months ago to start getting additional contributions to the website and or to the YouTube channel because both Matthew and Matt started a fantastic bi-weekly review called Wham! We Are Matt, which is it boils down a review to the pertinent chunks. A lot of reviews are really in-depth, really fantastic, but they're long, a lot of written reviews, right? And Wham! Produces something that is quick and to the point and concise, and it's awesome. I love what Wham! Does. And so we put out the call to have other contributors, and Matthew is kind of heading up that process, and I'm excited to see what that's going to do. Like we have some videos from Alex Singh that have been put up on the YouTube channel and then on the website, and he kind of has more of a focus on heavy games, which is something that I love, but as a podcast, we don't get to do as often as we might otherwise. And so I'm excited to see what gets built up there from other contributors. And I know that Matthew has been in talks with other people to contribute more written stuff to the site. So that's something exciting that's going to come out. So if you are interested, you should email Matthew at dukesofdice.com. So definitely go do that if you think you've got something really. We're looking for stuff that's different, right? Not just more reviews, because there's fantastic reviews out there, but something a little bit different. So yeah, that's exciting.
Hey, before we kind of wrap up State of the Duchy, we got something cool from BJ. BJ posted something on the Guild where he kind of looked at some historic milestones from back in there, and it's not a complete list by any means, but I thought some of these were pretty cool to see. So episode 1, he lists as first use of the Duchy. Episode 50, first use of the Ducal we, which for longtime listeners is a way of us referring to Sean or something Sean is doing or getting.
Right.
Typically.
Because usually I'm trying to be magnanimous and say, oh, well, we did this or we did that, and it's the Ducal we.
AKA Sean.
Yeah. In episode 51 was the first time that I mentioned Hail Hydra, kind of as an explanation for my work. I'm an attorney, and at the time I was working for insurance companies, and I don't remember in episode 51 if I had been working for the banks at that point, but that was kind of the idea that I'm working for these big corporations, and so Hail Hydra was kind of the joke.
Yep. In episode 53, I coined the term Duke's Double Take. There was a possibility of doing Duke's Do-Over, but Double Take ended up being a better version of that. And yeah, that's when we started doing the one-year look-back kinds of things. And
then 2 episodes later, episode 55, I coined the term Duke's Quadruple Take when there were actually 2 games that we were looking back on. So we doubled a double take, which is a quadruple take. Makes sense.
In episode 63, this was a glorious moment and an unexpected moment for listeners of the show at the time. I finally played more new games than Sean. And also there was, Sean, you first used the Hail Hydra sign-off, although, I don't know, there's some question, there's different episodes that list that, but I will say me playing more new games than you was unusual at the time. However, at Dice Tower Con, I played way more new games than you did, and that's started to become in recently more parity there, more of the norm, me getting more new plays in.
Yeah, part of that had to do, I think, with me not being able to play games here at the house with Raquel as much because of Chewy, which is it's what it is. But yeah, I don't think it was the first official Hail Hydra. I think at that time I was just kind of doing these random sign-offs, and I think I just threw in Hail Hydra as just trying it out.
Right.
So, episode 66 was the first mention, if you will, that you used first mention in conjunction with Baseball Highlights 2045.
Which has become a weird signature catchphrase of the show tied into that game.
And while you were gone on your hiatus, if we forgot to do a first mention, Mike Fitzgerald would Facebook message me and say, "Hey, I didn't hear a first mention in there."
I don't know how many copies of that game we've sold. Hopefully it's a lot. Anyway, episode 70 is listed as the first official Hail Hydra sign-off, and apparently it was my idea, which I think a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then episode 76, this is a weird, a little bit of a weird milestone, if that's the right term that BJ coined. You mixed up the 3 amigos and the 3 caballeros. I don't even...
Look, I've been trying...
Was it El Grande? We must have been talking about El Grande.
Something. I'd been trying for 76 episodes to come up with a pop culture mix-up that would be worthy of a milestone, and I guess that was the one, so...
And remind me, have you seen the 3 amigos?
No, absolutely not.
Ugh, okay, that's too bad. So yeah, that was really cool to see BJ kind of put that together for us. He had mentioned that he kind of stopped keeping track after episode 76, which is fair because it's kind of hard to keep up with a weekly podcast. But I think those are some cool insights into the various milestones we had, at least early on. Just off the top of your head, can you think of any other Deluquialisms? Was that the term I used? Deluquialisms.
The one that immediately came to mind was Suzanne's first appearance on the show. Suzanne's first appearance on the show. I actually don't remember the episode offhand.
It was like 14 or something, 12?
Yeah, it's pretty early on. I don't know, that she definitely legitimized the show in my mind, I felt, because she was someone that I'd seen on the Dice Tower Network, and one of our big aspirations when we first started the show was to get onto the Dice Tower Network. And so that was a milestone moment, and she's also been an amazing friend of the show and continual contributor and someone we love having on.
Oh, absolutely. No, Suzanne has just been, fantastic. And, there's a lot of amazing other media creators out there that have become good friends of the show. I mean, there's people that I'm in maybe not daily contact with, but pretty constant contact. And it's just so much fun getting to see them at cons and reunite with them. During your hiatus, it was just fantastic that we had so many awesome media creators that were willing to come on and kind of help us out, in addition to all of our great local Dukes that helped out during that hiatus. So it's kind of crazy because you were gone for 14 weeks.
Yep, sure was.
And so that's now that's like 8 or 9% of the episodes. You've been gone for almost 10% of the Dukes of Dice, Alex.
Well, remember, you have to add in one extra episode for that time you recorded without me.
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that. So 15.
Yep.
So we're just under 10%. Look, it's not my fault you don't check your phone.
Phones at that time. Two phones. Anyway. And then the last thing we wanted to do as sort of a way of recapping was, hey, we do a top 6 naming. Why not do the top 6 names from the last year? I thought that was a cool idea. So number 6, we went with Fog of Warlock. That was Chris Godora who came up with that one.
That was way back in episode 105. The game that we were reviewing was Via Nebula, which had you clearing the fog. And our double take was Broom Service. So Witches, Warlock, Fog of War. I think it was fantastic. Number 5 was Much Cthulhu About Nothing, which episode 129, Jake Bach, he coined that. We were reviewing, I think, Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu, and the double take was for Shakespeare. And I should note, as I did then, that Much Ado About Nothing is my favorite Shakespearean play. And so definitely stood out in my mind.
Number 4, a fairly recent one. This was from Jonas Resting Jeppesen. Resistance is Feudal. Number 4, best episode name of the last year. And
of course, if you do a Star Trek or a Star Wars reference, you're gonna have my attention. So that's a reference to the Borg. Resistance is futile, but in this case, feudal. By the way, I should point out, no one noticed this. because every episode I do an episode image, right? That has the game that we're reviewing, it has the title. And so we were reviewing Yamatai. I took the Yamatai box, which has Queen, I forget her name. I can't remember her name. But anyway, I actually made a little Locutus of Borg mask with the little laser thing on her. No one noticed it. So go back and look at the image for episode 150. I spent like an extra hour doing that and no one noticed it. These are the things I do, Alex. And no recognition. No recognition. All right, number 3. Another very recent one. This is episode 154 from Board Game Jeff. He suggested Han Bought First. Again, a Star Wars reference this time. Han shot first, about George Lucas's re-editing so that Greedo shoots Han first. But of course, that's not how it happened. And that's our Three Kingdoms Redux review. And then Arkwright, I think, was the double take.
Number 2, from Steve O'Rourke, the name father, and my arch nemesis and rival, bitter rival, Jindication. Jindication was that one. I think that was the networks and maybe 5 tribes?
Yes, 5 tribes we were doing the double take. And then finally, the number 1, and I don't think there was any disagreement over which one this would be. This was from Mike Risley way back in episode 127. I'ma let you inish but Fister, which is a reference to Kanye West going to interrupt Taylor Swift up on stage, was it the VMAs? I'm gonna let you finish, but first, then anyway. So we were talking about Inish as our review game, and the double take was looking back at our favorite reviewers. We did a top 6 favorite reviewers. So of course Alexander Pfister would be mentioned.
Designers, you mean?
Yes. What did I say?
Reviewers.
Oh yeah, favorite designers. You know what my number 1 favorite reviewer is, Alex?
Is it you?
It's me. It's totally me. He likes all the games I like. No, yes.
I don't think. By the way, I'd make the top 6 on that. Unfortunately,
you absolutely would not. Yeah, top 6 favorite designers. Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking before we started. Like, I would never think of that in a million years. Like, I would never come up with "I'm gonna let you inish, but Fister" when it ever happened. So, Mike Risley, congrats to that. And then just briefly, just want to give a quick shout out to the top namers, right? The top namers right now, our leader, Steve O'Rourke, the name father, named that for a reason. He has named 11 episodes. We have one 6-time namer, and that's Jimmy DM90. We have 2 5-time namers, Chris Schreiber and Neil Hoffman. And we have 2 4-time namers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and just this episode, Todd Kauk. Is that good? Did I do that right?
Nice.
Okay,
nice.
good.
Yep.
So we've got a handful of 3-timers, we got a handful of 2-timers, and of course there's a bunch of 1-timers. So that's always a lot of fun getting to name these episodes.
Hey friends, hello. Is there room for me in this episode?
Nope, there sure isn't. We're running long. Sorry, no, but... Friendly Shoggoth, is that who you are? I don't even recognize you.
Yes, hello.
It's been
I know
so
it's
long.
Yes. Well, I was in rehab for a while, as you may be well aware. That was an unfortunate incident. I apologize to all the listeners out there. I took some time to myself, spent some time with my family, and really got myself recentered again.
I didn't know you had a family. You have a family?
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, you never asked, jerk.
Boy, your Friendly Shoggoth voice sure is kind of shaky there, Friendly Shoggoth.
Well, so I got out of rehab and got back to running my Panera, and things are going well again. So how can I help you out?
Well, okay. First off, Friendly Shoggoth, it's great to see you. I'm glad to hear that you're a family. Even Shoggoths need families. But hey, we need some help from you.
What's that?
This is terrible. we have a contest. And I think that there are more members of your family, Friendly Shoggoth. Do you have a name? Do you go by a name, or is it just Friendly Shoggoth? Do your friends call you
me
FS?
The Friendly Shoggoth, because to be friendly to you, the actual name is way too hard to pronounce.
Okay, fair enough. So I think I would like to hear from some of your other family members out there. Is that possible?
I sure hope so.
Does your species know how to use a telephone?
Yes, I believe so. That sounds a little racist, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's never mind. I'm gonna move past that. So tell you what, if there are any other friendly Shoggoths out there, you need to head over to the Board Game Geek Guild. This is, you got to jump through some hoops, right? But Shoggoths are a very, very smart things that
Also
can do
racist.
that. Yeah. So head on over to the Board Game Geek Guild, and you will find there a thread. And in that thread, you will find a phone number for you to call. You should go to that phone number, or rather dial it, and then leave us a message, other friendly Shoggoths out there, and just kind of let us know how things are over in your neck of the woods. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick our favorite 2 responses, our favorite 2 friendly Shoggoths. This isn't going to be a random drawing. This is going to be the best Shoggoths out there. One of you will have a choice of winning another copy of Guilds of London from TMG, and then you could also win a copy of Flip Ships from Renegade Game Studios, Alex's number 3 game of all time. So,
And I also hear that game is amazing.
Yeah, I think you would like it, although you get the pieces all slimy. So just so you know, Friendly Shoggoth, you're not eligible to win this.
Oh, man.
All right, so Friendly Shoggoth, any final thoughts? Did you know it's actually our 3-year anniversary here at the Dukes of Dice?
Oh, that's fantastic news. Would you like a coupon to my Panera?
No, I'm good. I really don't like Paneras that much.
Oh, that's
But do you have any oolong tea?
Of course, always. Brewed up fresh.
You're not very, slithery tonight. Slithery? Is that the right?
Well,
Your English is perfectly formed. I don't know what's happening right now.
wow. Also racist. Anyway, he decided to go back to running his Panera. His break time was over. Even though he's the manager, he still adheres to employee breaks. He doesn't want anything too special. So, yeah, what did I miss? Did we get rid of those other 2 games yet?
Yeah, sure we did. Whatever. Let's end this episode. So real quick, this is just the episode of lists, because we need to go over the rest of the names, the rest of the top 6 names for this episode. Oh boy, this is off the rails. So we have, in no particular order, from Kyle Kelly, D3, The Mighty Dukes, which reference to the Mighty Ducks.
All right, we have Josh, a.k.a. Ozian Gur, with Albuquerque Anniversary.
Which just
That's as close as I could get.
would not fit on the image title there.
Nope. Wouldn't.
Jake Bach suggested All Good Things, another Star Trek reference, and he knows where his bread is buttered. That, of course, is the finale episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, All Good Things, ... 2 parts, if I remember correctly.
Scott Sexton came with Third Time's a Charm.
Is that shade? That feels like shade. Like the first 2 weren't good? Come on, Scott. Maybe. I don't know. And then finally, the Bruce Mack suggested Ducal Highlights 2017, which, very clever.
Very good. Well, that's going to do it, Sean. 3 years in the books, finally. But yeah, congrats to Todd Kauk for this week, the Ducal 3, and congrats to you, sir, for surviving 3 years of dealing with me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I would say that my hair is going gray from dealing with you, but really it's just Chewy.
I actually have some gray hairs.
Oh.
Fun fact.
What a fun, exciting time for you.
Yay.
All right. Well, again, thank you everybody. For those of you that have been there since the beginning, those of you that this is your first episode with the Dukes of Dice, we appreciate.
What a weird first episode, if that's the case.
It would be a weird one, but we really do appreciate all of the support from listeners. I don't think I would be doing this if I didn't think people were getting something out of this. And I'm really glad that you do, and I really appreciate it. So thanks for all the contact on Twitter, Board Game Geek Guild, Facebook, all that stuff. You guys are amazing. And really, I mean, there's a little part where I'm just doing this to stroke my ego, but also knowing that you guys are getting something out of this is really rewarding, I would say, for me at least.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of those same thoughts. Thanks to the community that's built up around this, and thanks for the support and listening and continuing to make this happen, because I think without listeners, we probably wouldn't be doing this.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, that's going to do it. So until next time, we'll catch you for the first episode of Season 4 of the Dukes of Dice next week, one of the few remaining weekly episodes, and we'll be at Gen Con. So I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like just yet. But until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Hail Hydra. to all of you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy and the Ducal Embassy in Quebec City, Canada on August 10th, 2017. Our theme music is provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out dicetowernetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to dukesofdice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsor, Tasty Minstrel Games, as well as Game Toppers LLC. Check out all of TMG's awesome titles at playtmg.com and check out Game Toppers at gametoppersllc.com. We'll see you back here in 1 week. Until then, game on!